I never thought I'd be that guy, the one caught in a mess of betrayal. But here I am, sitting in my own living room staring at the phone that's just buzzed with a text from her. Her name's Laura, my wife of 5 years, and honestly, I always trusted her, stupidly so. We had a decent life, a small but cozy apartment, and I thought we were solid. But then things started to feel off, little things at first. She'd leave her phone face down more often, excuse herself suddenly when I'd ask questions. I brushed it off, told myself it was work stress or her needing some space. Then last week I caught her. I was cleaning the apartment, nothing special, just tidying up after a long day, when I noticed her phone was buzzing persistently on the coffee table. I didn't think much, but my gut told me to take a peek. I picked it up, expecting a text from a coworker or a friend, but what I saw made my stomach drop. A string of messages between her and someone named Mark. It started innocently enough, little flirtatious comments, emojis, then escalated into more explicit stuff. They'd planned to meet. Up tonight. My hands actually trembled when I scrolled through it. That moment hit me like a punch to the gut. The betrayal wasn't just a slip-up, it was a full-blown affair. I remember feeling my pulse pounding in my ears, the room suddenly too hot, my vision blurring at the edges. I didn't want her to catch me snooping, so I hurriedly put the phone back down, but the damage was done. The proof was staring right at me. I sat there for a long time, feeling my jaw tighten, fists clenched so hard I thought I might break my nails. I never thought she could do this. After all we went through, our anniversary last month, her saying she loved me every morning, I felt crushed. I wasn't even angry at first, I was just numb. How could she lie to my face for months? How could she betray everything we built? I kept replaying those messages, the way her words danced so casually with someone else, showing a side of her I never knew. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the dark ceiling, feeling the weight of it all settle in my chest. Next morning I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living in that fog of lies. I waited until she came home from work, and as she stepped inside I felt a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. Her smile was familiar, but this time it felt like a stranger's. I looked right into her eyes, cold and steady, and said, "We need to talk." Her face changed instantly, the usual comfort replaced by confusion. "What's wrong?" she asked, trying to brush past me. I blocked her way. "Look, Laura, I saw the messages, the ones with Mark. How long has this been going on?" My voice came out more hostile than I intended, but I couldn't hold back. Her eyes widened and she hesitated, then shrugged with a nervous laugh. "It's just a stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything." Stupid mistake, that was her defense. My stomach clenched. "No, Laura, it meant everything. I saw the way you talked to him, like he's more than just a coworker. How long have you been seeing him?" I demanded. She looked guilty, then suddenly angry. "You don't understand. I was stressed and it just happened. I never wanted to hurt you." I clenched my fists tightly. "Hurt me? You've been lying to my face and now you expect me to just forgive. You think I don't see the pattern, the way you've been sneaking around." I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. My whole body was tense. "That's why I've decided I'm not just going to walk away quietly." She looked panicked now, trying to find some way out of this, but I had already made my decision. I needed to plan my next move. Something had to change, something she wouldn't expect. I didn't want to just end it. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling right now, betrayed, angry, humiliated. I knew then I wouldn't let her get away with this. I had to be smart, precise. I needed to uncover everything, gather my evidence, and prepare my revenge. The first step was clear. I'd find a way to make her regret this. And if she thought she could cheat and walk free, she had another thing coming. I just needed to wait for the right moment, when she'd least expect it. The question was, how far was I willing to go? Would I just leave, or was I ready to make her feel the same pain she'd put me through? I had my answer. She'd regret ever crossing that line. I'd make sure of it. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes I saw her face, defensive, guilt-ridden, yet somehow still trying to act like everything was okay. I kept thinking about the messages, the stolen moments she thought I'd never find out about. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I needed a plan, something calculated. I wasn't interested in crying or shouting. What I wanted was her to feel the sting of betrayal just like I did. In the days that followed, I started paying closer attention. Her habits, her routine, even her phone. I knew I had to be subtle. I didn't want her to get suspicious. But I also needed to gather proof, something concrete that I could use, not just her words or my suspicions. I decided to install a discreet app on her phone. It wasn't exactly legal, but I wasn't worried about that. I just needed to see what she was up to behind my back. The first night I activated it, I felt a strange thrill mixed with disgust. I sat in my corner watching her every move through the logs, her messages, her calls, even her location history. It was like watching her become a stranger, completely unaware that I was watching her. That's when I saw the first new message from Mark. It was a simple "can't wait to see you tonight," timestamped just 2 hours after she left work. My stomach knotted. I stared at the screen, my hands cold and sweaty. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a full-blown affair, and I had the evidence to prove it. I also saw her deleting some messages, trying to hide her tracks. That made my anger spike. She was actively trying to cover her tracks, which meant she knew she was doing something wrong. It was the confirmation I needed. I had enough to confront her again, but this time I wanted to do it with a plan, something that would make her regret every second of her betrayal. I started thinking about how to turn this around. Revenge, I knew, had to be calculated. I didn't want to blow everything up in a rage. I wanted to make her feel the weight of her actions slowly, meticulously. I decided to send her a fake message from Mark, pretending to be a new guy just to see if she'd bite. It was a small step, but it would tell me how deep her infidelity went. I crafted a message that hinted at desire, made it seem like I was someone new and exciting. I hit send, then waited. Her response came surprisingly fast, a message about wanting to meet again. That confirmed it. This was serious, and I had to act fast. I didn't tell her I was watching. Instead, I waited for the right moment. One evening, she was working late again, supposedly finishing an urgent project. I knew she'd be alone, so I left a note on the table: "Meet me in the living room, important." When she came home, I was already sitting on the couch, facing her, calm but cold. Her eyes widened, caught off guard. "So I guess you're busy tonight," I said quietly, holding up her phone. It was open, the fake message still visible. Her face blanched. "What is this?" I asked. "You've been lying to my face." "For months." Her voice trembled. "It's not what it looks like. I was going to tell you," I cut her off. "You were going to tell me after I saw the messages, after I found out how many times you lied." She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I felt my stomach tight. "No more excuses. I've had enough of this game." I paused, then added, "You've been sneaking around, hiding your phone, lying about your whereabouts. I want to know everything. Who else have you been seeing?" Her lips quivered. "It's just Mark, I swear." It didn't mean anything. I was stressed and I didn't know how to tell you. "Stressed? That's your excuse," I scoffed. "I work hard and I don't cheat. You crossed a line, Laura, and now I've got proof. You're not going to walk away from this unscathed. I'm done being a fool. If this is the kind of woman I married, I need to reconsider everything." Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't moved. Instead, I told her I'd been planning something. Something that would make her realize what she lost. I knew I couldn't just leave it at that. I wanted her to feel the full weight of betrayal. This was only the beginning. I had to set the stage, and I knew exactly how I was going to do it. The plan would unfold soon enough. I watched her, trembling as I started to outline my next move. I told her to pack her things, because she was leaving, not just for a night, but for good. The shock in her eyes was almost satisfying. I wanted her to regret every moment she thought she could cheat and get away with it. Now I waited for her to leave, to take her first step into the chaos I was about to unleash. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was ready. Ready to make her pay in a way she'd never forget. And she didn't even see what was coming. The moment she realized I was serious, Laura started to panic. Her eyes darted around the room, desperate, searching for an escape route. "You can't do this," she whispered, voice trembling. "Please, just listen." But I was already over it. I'd made up my mind, and I wasn't interested in her excuses or apologies. Instead, I kept my tone calm, cold, deliberate. "Listen. No, Laura, I've listened long enough. You think you can betray me, lie to my face, and just come back like nothing happened. Sorry, that's not how it works anymore." Her hands shook as she tried to pack a bag, her voice cracked on each word. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I was overwhelmed, and save it," I cut her off sharply. "You're not a victim here. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie." And now you're leaving because I'm about to show you what real consequences look like." I didn't yell, but my words cut through the air like a blade. She hesitated, then looked at me with tear-streaked cheeks. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Anywhere but here," I said. "You're not staying, not after everything." I handed her a small bag of her things, then pointed toward the door. "Go, think about what you've done. Maybe when you come back you'll understand what you've lost." She grabbed her bag, paused, then looked at me with imploring eyes. "Please don't do this. I love you, I still do." Her voice cracked, and for a second I almost believed her. But then I remembered the messages, the lies, the betrayal. I felt a cold fury settle in my chest. Love, that was gone. What was left was the burning desire to make her regret ever crossing me. As she stepped outside, I watched her walk down the hall, my fists clenched tight. I didn't want to just kick her out and forget about it. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt: the betrayal, the helplessness, the shame. That's when I started planning my revenge. I'd already gathered enough evidence to ruin her, not just emotionally but practically. I wanted her to understand that she'd lost everything. The next few days were a blur of preparation. I went online, researching ways to make her life uncomfortable without crossing any legal lines. I found a way to secretly install a GPS tracker on her car. I took photos of her leaving her apartment, caught her in lies, and even paid a private investigator to follow her. All this just to make sure I had all my bases covered. I wasn't about to let her escape unscathed. I also set up a fake social media account, one that looked innocent but was designed to draw her in. I crafted a message, a subtle hint that I'd been watching her, waiting for her to slip up again. I wanted her to feel paranoid, to question everything. That was the plan, to turn her world upside down, slowly and methodically. One night I sent her a message on that fake account. "I know what you've been doing. We need to talk." Her response was almost immediate, a nervous reply asking when and where. I knew she was biting, and that gave me a rush of satisfaction. The revenge was starting to take shape. It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about making her understand that her actions had consequences, big ones. I didn't send her anything more that night. Instead, I sat back, feeling the weight of my plan settle around me. I could see her every move, feel her paranoia growing, and I knew she'd start to crack soon enough. All I had to do was wait. I could almost taste her panic, and I was ready for the finale. When the moment came, she'd regret crossing that line, and I'd make sure she never forgot it. There was one thing I was certain about: she'd never see me coming, not this way. Not with the carefully laid trap I was building. I'd watched her, studied her, and now I was ready to make her pay. Not with violence, no, that wasn't my style, but with the kind of calculated psychological game that would leave her feeling exposed, vulnerable, and utterly helpless. And when she finally realized she'd lost everything, I'd be there, watching patiently, knowing I'd won. A few nights later, everything was in place. I had the tracker on her car, monitoring her movements like a silent shadow. Every time she left her apartment, I knew exactly where she was going. I had the fake social account stalking her profile, waiting for her to slip up again. It was a strange feeling, like I'd turned into some kind of ghost, watching her from the shadows. But that's what revenge does. It twists you, makes you see everything in black and white. She started acting more paranoid. I could see it in the messages she sent her friends, the way she kept looking over her shoulder. She was slipping, and I loved it. One night she texted me out of the blue, "Are you following me?" I almost chuckled. I responded simply, "You already know the answer. Be careful, Laura, I'm always watching." Her reply was a string of nervous emojis, then a simple, "Why are you doing this?" That question made my stomach tighten. I had a clear answer in mind, but I kept it to myself for now. Patience was key. She had no idea how deep I'd gone, how much I'd planned. All she knew was that I was onto her, and her world was starting to crumble. The next day, I arranged for her phone to accidentally ring at a specific time. When she answered, I used a voice changer, pretending to be someone else. "Laura, I know what you've been up to. Stop messing around or this will get worse." Her voice hitched, and I could hear her panic. She stammered, trying to deny it, but I knew better. I let her sweat for a few seconds, then hung up. It was enough to shake her confidence. That evening she came home looking exhausted, her face pale. She sat on the couch, clutching her phone, trembling slightly. I didn't say a word. Instead, I watched her, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and disgust. I'd done a good job of making her feel vulnerable, exposed. She was in over her head now. Finally, she broke the silence. Look, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was wrong. I want to fix this. Her voice was pleading, desperate. I looked at her coldly. Fix? You think just saying sorry will erase what you did? No, Laura. You've lost my trust, and I want you to understand what that means. She looked around, tears pooling in her eyes. Please, she whispered. I love you. I don't want to lose everything. Just tell me what to do. I felt my jaw tight. Love, that was a game she played until she decided it was convenient to throw it away. But now she wanted me to buy her excuses. Sorry, I'd already moved past forgiveness. I leaned in and spoke softly. You're going to leave. Tonight. And I want you to understand this isn't just about leaving. You're going to regret ever crossing that line. I've made sure you'll never forget. Her eyes widened. What are you going to do? Exactly what you're afraid of, I said. You'll see soon enough. But for now, pack your things. You're done here. I gave her a moment to process it, then turned away, feeling that familiar rush of satisfaction. I'd made her feel hunted, cornered, helpless. That was what I wanted. As she packed, I watched her trembling hands, the way her movements were hurried and unsteady. That's when I knew I'd succeeded. She'd start to realize she'd lost control. The game was about to escalate, and I was prepared. I had one more trick up my sleeve, something that would leave her with a lasting impression. But she didn't know that yet. When she finally left, I lingered in the doorway, watching her get into her car. Her silhouette was small against the dark street, and I felt a wave of cold pride. This was just the beginning. I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. She'd see what betrayal really costs. The plans I'd made would soon come into motion, big, meticulous, and unforgiving, and she'd be the one paying the price. The night settled around me, quiet but charged. I already knew. She'd start to crack further, and soon I'd have all the evidence I needed. I had the upper hand now, and I planned to keep it. She thought she was clever, sneaking around behind my back. But she was wrong. I was always one step ahead. Now I only had to wait for her next move, and when she made it, she'd finally understand what betrayal truly feels like. The days that followed were like a slow, simmering storm. Laura stayed out of the apartment most of the time, probably trying to figure out what I was up to or just panicking about how much I'd seen and heard. I made sure she felt watched without her knowing the full extent of it. My phone buzzed constantly with updates, her movements, her visits, the moments she tried to pretend everything was normal. Every little detail was a brick in the wall I was building around her. One afternoon, I finally felt ready to let her feel the full weight of her betrayal. I'd arranged for a private investigator to follow her, just enough to know exactly where she was, who she was meeting, and what she was doing. The investigator confirmed what I already suspected. She was meeting Mark again, sometimes twice a day. They weren't just sneaking around. They were planning something, probably another rendezvous. I watched her through my phone's live feed as she sat at a cafe, nervously glancing around. Her face was pale, her eyes flickering with anxiety. That's when I decided it was time to confront her with everything I'd uncovered. I wanted her to realize she had no hiding place anymore. This was the moment she'd understand she'd lost control. I called her, keeping my tone icy but calm. Laura, I know everything. You're not the only one watching now, I said, voice steady, her breath hitched. What are you talking about? Oh, I think you know, I replied. The investigator I hired followed you today. I know about Mark, about your meetings, and about the fact that you're planning to keep this up. Silence on the other end. Then she finally spoke, voice trembling. Please don't do this. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I was weak. Stop. I cut her off sharply. You're not a victim here. You're a liar, a cheat, and now I've got enough to make. Sure, everyone knows it. You're going to regret this, Laura. Trust me. Her voice cracked. You're ruining everything, our marriage, my life. Please, I don't want to lose everything. Just give me a chance to fix this. I laughed, cold and bitter. Fix it? You mean by lying and sneaking around? Sorry, that ship has sailed. I have proof now, so don't even try to deny it. I want you to think about what you've done because I'm about to take the gloves off. That night, I set my plan into motion. I made arrangements for her to find an envelope on her doorstep. Inside was a single, neatly printed note. Your secrets are no longer safe. You're about to face what you've been hiding. I also left a trail of subtle clues, small, nondescript items I'd planted in her purse, her car, even her workspace, that would make her realize I was serious. The next morning, her face was pale when she found the note. Her hands trembled as she read it, eyes darting over the words. "What is this?" she whispered, clutching it like a lifeline. I watched her from the doorway, arms crossed, feeling the satisfaction bubble up inside me. "You've been caught, Laura," I said quietly. "And I'm not going anywhere. You're going to see what happens when you betray someone who loved you." Her lips trembled, tears pooling in her eyes. "Please," she begged, "just give me a chance." "I gave you chances," I interrupted. "Now it's time for you to face the consequences." I handed her a set of keys to her car, her apartment, and a folder with all the evidence I'd collected. "Pack your things. You're leaving today. And when you do, remember this: betrayal has a price and you're about to pay it." She stared at the folder, then at me. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You're going to regret this." "I highly doubt that," I said, turning away, "because the worst part for you is just beginning." Watching her walk out, clutching her bag and those keys like her life depended on it, I felt a strange mixture of relief and adrenaline. I'd finally taken control. She thought she could cheat and walk away, but she was wrong. I was shaping her downfall with my own hands, step by step, and soon the final chapter would unfold. I was ready for it. The game was about to end, and she'd realize just how deep the betrayal went, and that I was the one who held all the cards now. The house felt eerily quiet after she left, like the walls were holding their breath. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her car disappear down the street, feeling the cold satisfaction of my plan finally coming to fruition. Every step I'd taken, the surveillance, the evidence, the carefully crafted threats, had led to this. I knew she'd be furious, humiliated, maybe even desperate enough to try and fix things. But that was the point. I wanted her to see what her betrayal cost her, to feel the full weight of her choices. I took a deep breath and closed the door behind me. It was time to reclaim what I'd lost, not just my trust, but my dignity. I started by calling the lawyer and filing for divorce, making sure everything was legal, clean, and decisive. No messy accusations, no drawn-out fights, just a straightforward ending to a chapter I never wanted to begin. As I typed the documents, I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally cut through the fog of lies and manipulation. Next, I handed over the keys to her apartment and her car. I didn't bother leaving a note. I had said everything I needed to say, and now it was over. The only thing left was to make sure she understood that I was serious about moving on. I took one last look around the place, the memories flooding my mind, good, bad, and everything in between. It was time to let go. In the days that followed, I kept my distance. I blocked her on social media, erased her number from my phone, and cut ties with anything that reminded me of her. It hurt more than I expected. I felt a hollow ache in my chest, a sting that wouldn't quite go away. But I also felt relief. For the first time in months, I could breathe freely, unburdened by her lies and deception. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding myself. I went out with friends, got back into hobbies I'd neglected, and even started dating again. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd learned something important about trust, about betrayal, and about myself. I'd been naive to believe everything was perfect, but I'd also been blind to the strength I had inside me to pick up the pieces. One evening, I sat alone at a bar, nursing a drink and reflecting. The bartender, a sharp-eyed woman with a knowing smile, asked, "You look like someone with a story. Want to share?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I found out my wife was cheating on me. I set a trap, played her game, and ended it on my terms. It wasn't easy, but I feel like I finally took control." She nodded appreciatively. "That takes guts. Most people just get crushed by that stuff." "Yeah," I said, staring into my glass. "But the truth is, betrayal teaches you more about yourself than anything else. I don't regret what I did. I only regret trusting her in the first place. Now I know better." The bartender smiled. "Good for you. Sometimes the hardest lessons lead to the best new beginnings." As I finished my drink, I knew one thing for sure. I'd survived the storm. I'd faced betrayal head-on, with my dignity intact, and now I was finally free to start over. No more secrets, no more lies, just me, standing tall, ready for whatever comes next. Because sometimes the only way to truly win is to walk away and rebuild from the ashes. And that's exactly what I did.